welcome to the Turtle Tracks podcast. I'm your host, Brian Van Hooker, and I'm here with Renae Jacobs, the original voice of April O'Neil. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Brian?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. This is fun.
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking to a lot of the voice actors from that show, and I just really would feel incomplete if it didn't have you in there too. So I really appreciate you doing this.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that very much. I mean, I would agree with you. It's incomplete without April O'Neil.
Of course.
But, thank you. I appreciate it.
Sure. No, so, boy, I don't know where to get started. I guess it makes sense to start right at the beginning. So, how did you get your start in acting?
Well, I got my start in acting in my basement in Lansing, Michigan, performing for all my stuffed animals. I would line them all up on the couch and actually mimic all of the voices from a lot of the shows that I was watching and movies from Chip and Dale and the Seven Dwarves and Winnie the Pooh and all of those wonderful cartoons. I would reenact them for my stuffed animals. And my mom discovered me once down in the basement and couldn't figure out who else was down there with me. And realized that I could do some of these voices and found an outlet for me. There was a woman who was kind of a precursor to Sesame Street and Romper Room, if you know Romper Room. And she had a television show on the Michigan State University channel, and it was puppetry and make-believe. And she gave classes to the kids. So my mom signed me up. She taught us how to open up the back of our favorite stuffed animal and create a puppet, and worked with us on voices. And after the course was over, at the old age of 7 years old, she said, Renae is really good, and I'd like her to come and be on the show with me. So I performed voices on the show starting at 7 years old. And then we kind of, she took a small group of kids that were talented, and we visited schools, and we taught the kids how to make puppets. And I started really early. And then I was, of course, so excited when I was introduced to theater. I think I was about 8 years old when my parents took me to see a musical called The Most Happy Fella. And that was it. That was it for me. So voiceover was the beginning. And after the many years in voiceover at the age of 8, I became enamored with theater. And that was really my passion for many, many years. Musical theater and opera. And I did voiceover along the way, interestingly. I did the voiceovers for a theme park called Knott's Berry Farm. And there was a gypsy camp. And there were all these puppets that one of my teachers actually created, and he knew that I could do voices. So I started recording voices for Knott's Berry Farm and doing their rides and doing, puppets and things. And ended up circling back to voiceover when I returned to California. And my agent asked me if I could do any voices. And I pulled all those characters from the basement out and started doing them. And he said, you know what, you can do this. And that was the beginning of my voiceover work here in Los Angeles.
Do you remember your favorite one to imitate as a kid?
Well, it would have to be the what are they? The Munchkins from Wizard of Oz. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. So, that was Wizard of Oz is like the best ever. So, in fact, it's so funny. I was traveling with my husband one year in Italy, and we had jet lag, big time. Couldn't sleep for days. And one night we turned on the TV, and there was Wizard of Oz in Italian. So I turned the sound off and did the whole movie, every line. It was really fun. So yeah, Wizard of Oz, huge impact on my life. Absolutely. I even played the part of Dorothy, and I was in a children's theater troupe and played the part of Dorothy.
Oh, very cool. I even when I watch it now, and I've seen it 100 times, I mean, Burt Lahr and the name escapes me, but the guy who played the wizard, just every time they make me laugh, literally every time.
Frank Morgan.
Yes, I'm sorry. Okay, yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, he's the best.
Yep.
And I always talk about that. I mean, my favorite line to ever say is "Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain," because that's like there's so many people that will say one thing and do another.
Yeah.
So there's so many lines from Wizard of Oz that just stick with you, you know.
I love when he's explaining how the hot air balloon works, and he says,
"Oh yeah,
completely unexplainable," and it's clearly he just doesn't know how it works. It's so funny.
Every character in that movie made a profound effect on me. Every character, and I kind of it's kind of my life theory. You know, there's no place like home. You can go out and be adventurous, but it's very important to know where your heart is and know where your home is. And I love that movie. It's my favorite.
Yeah. I don't know how anybody couldn't. So when you were in California, what was your first voiceover work that you did?
Well, I did a number of recordings for toys to begin with. So I don't know if you know of a toy called Teddy Ruxpin.
Yes. The recording bear.
He was a bear, and he had a cassette tape inside him. Mm-hmm. And when you played it, not only did the voice come out, but it moved. It was like automatronics, kind of like, you know, when Disney first came out with the Tiki Room, you know, mm-hmm. the birds singing and the flowers crooning. So he had automatronics in him. But I didn't do Teddy, but I did voices for another beautiful stuffed animal called Mother Goose. And she was stunning. She was probably about 18 inches tall and probably about the same length. She was gorgeous. And it came with a book and the tape, and her mouth would move. And then we would I didn't do Mother Goose, but I did a lot of the other characters on that. And then there was another one called The Land of Pleasant Dreams. And I played a bear and a lamb and, you know, always little creatures. But the first television special or voiceover was Rose Petal Place with Marie Osmond. And there were 2 specials. Hasbro, I think, did the toys. And there was a float in the Thanksgiving Day parade one of the years. I'm not sure why it didn't go further. It was a beautiful, beautiful animation. People should look it up. I played a character called Orchid. Everybody was a flower or a bug. Frank Welker played Petey Centipede. And I played a character called Orchid, and she said her favorite line was, "When the going gets tough, the tough go shopping." And then for everything, let's see, for every place there's a thing, and for everything there's a place. So that was her.
That's she was very with Frank Welker.
Oh my God, he's wonderful. He's kind. He's giving. He's sweet. He's generous, and the most talented. You know, I mean, how lucky was I to work with Frank? Unbelievable. I worked with him on another show called Don Quixote and Sancho Panda at Hanna-Barbera.
Who were you in that?
Oh, I played some French princess.
Were you rescued by Don Quixote?
I think so.
That's great. And for anybody who doesn't know who Frank Welker is, please, the man's done upwards of 1,000 cartoon voices, especially animals. So he's an amazing talent.
Yes. So fun. There's a great YouTube video of him barking, but into a trash can, and it's it's absolutely hysterical, and he's spot on. The reverberation from the trash can, the way it sounds, I mean, you'd swear it was a dog. He's amazing. He's doing George, he does the voice of George in Curious George.
Oh, for sure. He also did a Boo and a million other things.
Oh, a million things. A million things.
So how do you remember what it was like first auditioning for Turtles?
Absolutely. Hard to forget. When your agent calls you and says, you've got an audition in the Valley at this studio for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you go, what? He's called, I don't know. He says, it's something with turtles and they want to hear you. Okay. I'd never heard of it before. So drive out to the Valley to audition. Stu Rosen was the director at the time. And there were probably 80 women waiting outside to audition. I assure you there were many, many more that I didn't see. And he directed me, and he was Stu was very gruff. He was really sweet, out of the business, away from the recording studio. But in the booth, he was difficult. And so, he's directing you, and he's not liking anything you're doing. And he said, okay, goodbye. So out the door I went, okay, I don't think I'm getting that. And then about a week or so later, I get a call from my agent, you've got the part. And, again, it was only going to be a 5-part miniseries. Hey, I'm happy for any work at all. Show up to the studio, and there's the most talented group of people I've ever met on the planet in that recording studio. And it was amazing. We all kind of walked into it not knowing what this was going to be. And I don't think anybody had an idea of what Turtles was going to end up doing. Not a clue. 5-part, sell toys, bye-bye.
Sure.
Yeah. So
what were the recording sessions like? I know back in the day, you unlike cartoons now, you all would pretty much record together. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And in my humble opinion, I think that so much is lost by doing it individually. I guess it has to do with money and timing and calendar. I don't know. But the secret sauce to Ninja Turtles was recording all at once. And the amazing repartee that went on between the turtles behind the microphone. I don't think that it would have been as successful if we had recorded individually, because many of the lines that are classic and that people share with their children now were created by those guys. Most creative, the ad-libbing, the wisecracks, the development of the characters, they played off each other. I was the straight person. I was like the George Burns to their Gracie Allens. It was magic. It was absolute magic and pandemonium at times. Somebody would do something and we'd go off on a tangent, and then behind the booth they'd go, okay, come on back to the come back to the studio, everybody. I describe it like your parents drop off a bunch of kids in the playground and they say, you see that sandbox over there? Don't go in it. But if you do go in it, don't throw the sand. Well, that's the first thing you're going to go do, right? And not only that, but you're going to throw the sand. And that's what it was. It was pure joy. And how do you accomplish that by yourself in a booth? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm revisiting the series a lot lately with my 5-year-old daughter, and the parts that and I'm surprised that she gets it, but the parts that make her hysterical laugh is when they break the fourth wall, or somebody will say something about how this is an episode, or we've got to finish this before the episode's over, or something like that, and they'll break the fourth wall, and she's hysterical about the fact the characters in it know it's an episode. And I'm guessing a lot of that came from the kind of in the moment silliness.
A lot of it did. A lot of it did. And then once the guys kind of found their way, the writers would, put in some of that, but then the guys really took it from there. There were times when it's like every season they would come, talk to us, and they'd say, okay, this year we're going darker. They want it darker. what the heck? What do you mean you want it darker? The beauty of this is the comedy and the multi-layers of comedy. The kids get it. The adults get it. They can share it with each other. So if you pay attention to, say, the third season onward, and you watch the first few episodes, you'll probably see that it's darker, less wisecracking, less goofing around. By the sixth episode of each season, those guys they've gone off the rails again. And we were thrilled to do, and every year we come back, okay, it's going to be tougher, it's going to be darker, we don't want the goofing around. Like, okay, here we go again. Again, I think that the longevity of the show has to do with the humor. Anybody can be Batman, anybody can be dark. And what do kids need darkness for, right? Look at what we're going through now with this COVID stuff. I mean, talk about dark and scary. The boogeyman is on our doorstep, and to make dark, evil, scary cartoons. I mean, I just okay. I don't. Not for Turtles. Not for me.
And when they finally did that in the last 2 seasons or so, it had no life in it. It was just dull. Yeah,
they squeezed us enough. They threatened us enough. They didn't know what they didn't know. They didn't know what they had. They didn't know what they had. I don't know where the pressure was coming from. I don't know if it was the writers or the directors or the producers or the station, the network. I really don't know where it was coming from, because it wasn't from us. We fought it.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's like up until that certain point, it stays silly and weird, and then it dramatically turns dark, and it's like it's boring. It's not even like Batman can be dramatic and dark and all that other business, but when you did it to the Turtles and those final couple seasons, it was just like, all right, where's the jokes? Where's the pizza?
Yeah. So. Right. Well, they got it squished.
So I'm curious. I've talked to most of the Turtles, except for Barry Gordon so far. But I'm curious from your perspective, what were each of them like behind the camera? Like, did they reflect their characters any, or no? I'm just curious what they were like.
Yeah, well, we all embody our characters. We're actors. We all take some of our soul and put it into our characters, even if they're butterflies. But Barry was actually studying he was in law school at the time that we were recording, and he was studying. And he would look up exactly at the right time, say his line, and go back to his book. So in a way, kind of Donatello, bookish studying. Rob, wisecracks are us, that's Rob. Biggest heart in the world, so talented. Townsend brought the wonderful, goofy Michelangelo. And Cam, that kind of tried and true, Dudley Do-Right kind of character. Of course, they're not the Turtles.
Sure.
But to me, they kind of embody that. I look at them as those kinds of hearts and characters and souls. They're multi-dimensional people, and they're highly talented, but I can tell you they're kind and generous and giving, and are there for you in a heartbeat should you need rescuing, like April always did.
That's a question I have for you. So, April, I mean, looking back, it seems like April's she's kind of stuck in between two times, where she's constantly the damsel in distress, but also a tough character in a number of ways that was kind of breakthrough in its own way back in 1989 or whatever. I don't know, I'm curious about that dynamic, because what was it like being April in that way?
Oh, it was great. You completely got her character. Even when she was taken away, she wasn't scared.
No.
She was like, put me down, you big ape. She's
she certainly was
here
used
we go
to it.
again. Here we go again,
Yeah.
and and she always knew that the turtles would come or she could get out of it. She was never scared.
Yeah.
She was just, a bit frustrated. There were times where they wrote her, screaming once in a while, but in her heart, she knew she'd be fine. And it was great being a real person and not a butterfly or a fairy or, it was the first role that I had that played a human being. Most cartoons are not human beings, and the turtles aren't human beings, but it was really nice. And I always felt like I was responsible for portraying a character that could inspire young girls to be more, do more. And in fact, a lot of times during Comic-Cons, I'll have women come up for my autograph and they'll say, if not for April, I wouldn't have joined the military, or I wouldn't have pursued my dreams. I grew up with all brothers, so I watched Ninja Turtles, and April was strong. She held her ground, and it gave me strength to deal with my brothers who were teasing me or beating on me or whatever. And I've had a lot of young women who may have learning disabilities, dyslexia, maybe a little touch of autism. And they also say, if not for April and if not for the turtles, I don't know if I'd be alive today. So it's pretty profound. You think that, we're just signing autographs. No, this show had an effect on people that we as a cast didn't even know until years later when we started meeting our fans. So it's such a joy and an honor to meet people who still want to meet us, and we mean something to. It's mutual admiration between us and the fans. It's just great.
I'm curious. Did you base April on anybody when you were developing the character? Do you recall?
Yeah, me.
Great.
Hey, people don't ask me, but I've lived all over the world. I studied in London. I lived in New York in the 80s when I literally had to carry an umbrella, one of those little ones that had a button. So if I were out and it was dangerous, I'd push the button and it would scare the person who was threatening. New York was very dangerous. And it didn't, you know what? I'm 4'10", and I weighed a lot less than I do now, but nobody stopped me. And so when I had the opportunity to do April, I really dug down, and a lot of her was me. And then, of course, the broadcaster part, there were women on television as reporters, not very many, not like now, but I emulated them as well.
Very cool. I'm curious, back to behind the scenes a little bit. What was it like? As Sue Blue is kind of a legendary recording voice. I'm curious what she was like behind the scenes working with her.
So Sue, this was her first directing gig behind the glass. I worked with her on Rose Petal Place. And I worked with her on a few other projects that I can't quite remember, but as a voiceover actor. And then Stu Rosen was our director, and there was a falling out pretty quickly between him and the director. There was a voiceover strike that was occurring, and James Avery couldn't make one of the recording sessions. I don't think he had gotten fresh prints at that point, but he couldn't make a session. So Stu, I guess on his own, booked time and got the part recorded, thought that they would appreciate that, and apparently not. So he lost the job. And I'm not quite sure how Sue was brought in. She'd probably been putting the feelers out to direct. And, they weren't paying more than scale. And I assure you, I'm sure Sue didn't get paid very much because they were cheap. So, and then there was a lot going on in the booth. There was a lot of pressure. It was Sue's first gig. The producers they weren't warm and fuzzy. And so Sue didn't really come into the booth and interact with us as actors. She wore the director hat, and I think it was pretty rough in the booth in terms of stress. So we didn't, in the past as a cast, we would have all been together and, played in the sandbox. And because Sue was now the director instead of a voiceover actor, she couldn't come into the sandbox anymore.
Oh, that must be a hard transition for sure.
Yeah, but you know what? She's become such a tour de force.
Oh, yeah.
Not only as an actress, but as a teacher and a director. And, that's how you get your chops, the first equity paying job, Actors Equity, is a theater, the theater union. The first job I took to get my Actors Equity was backstage, and I had actors make me not only wash their underwear, but iron their underwear.
What?
Yeah.
I can't.
But yeah, that was nuts. But I got my equity card. So sometimes you just, got to iron the underwear to get what you need. Not more than iron the underwear, but just iron the underwear.
Jeez, wow. That's, wow. Favorite catchphrases as being April or anything? I mean, I'm sure you had to do a lot of stuff, but
yeah. So I already did it. Put me down, you big ape. And this is April O'Neil, Channel 6 News.
That's great.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, I thought this would be a little bit fun. I sent you an image or a handful of images from some of the old school Ninja Turtles toys. I'm curious about your reactions to them. I think the fans will know what we're talking about.
Okay, let me get that up here again.
Sure,
okay,
yeah.
So the first one you're showing me is pretty funny. It's a blue dinosaur.
Yeah.
With a Ninja Turtle green eye band and knee pads, shell knee pads.
Yeah.
And it's got a saddle. And then April is wearing a animal print. I don't know what you'd call that. It has no legs, no arms. It looks like a bathing suit, but it's not.
Yeah, it's kind of a Raquel Welch thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then she's got some weird, she's got green turtle shell knee pads, and she's got some kind of a thing with spikes on it and headband. So, you know what is very interesting about this? So, at first look, you go, what the hell? But I was doing a Comic-Con in San Bernardino, and this woman was sitting at a booth across from me, and she was with a comic artist. And she came up to me and said, "Do you know who the real April O'Neil is?" I said, "Yeah, me." She goes, "No, not you." And she said the real April O'Neil was Kevin Eastman's either first wife or girlfriend. And she pulled out a comic book that was a Turtles comic book, and this is exactly how April looked. She had on that same outfit. Now, I don't know about the dinosaur, but the comic book had April, and it had this woman as April's best friend, not Irma, but as her best friend. And yeah, so that was something new I'd never heard before. So I don't know if that is a nod to that comic book. Why don't you look it up?
It might be. I mean, there's a lot of the original Mirage artists did a lot of those. I mean, there was some really crazy. I mean, did you have any thought? I'm sure you probably signed the one a million times, but the very first April figure, I'm curious if you had any opinions about it.
Yeah. Oh, she was a little bulky, not as bulky as later. Yeah, I even have the original toys in package, new in package. Thank you very much. Yeah, but I thought she was fine. She was a little stiff, but and not as thin as I would have liked her. But yeah, she was good. She had a camcorder and a turtle com, and she was good. Again, thrilled to do the work, and the more toys meant the more work I got.
Yeah, they redid her head a little bit later, so she looked a little bit better.
Yeah. And then this one's really strange. Universal Studios.
Oh, yeah. She was the Bride of Frankenstein.
Bride of explain that to me. In a yellow jump dress. I don't know. I think it's got pants too. It's half dress, half jumpsuit with. That's bizarre. I don't get it. What the hell was that?
It was some marketing thing with Universal where every turtle was a crossed over with a monster.
Oh, yeah. That's interesting because now everything's a crossover, right?
Oh, yeah.
So this is kind of the beginning of crossovers. I don't remember crossovers back then. So this is Bride of Frankenstein April.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
The last one I wanted to get your opinion of, and this one's sort of notorious for kind of being inappropriate for a kid's toy, was April the Ravishing Reporter, which is kind of...
Oh, no, the one with the dew?
Yeah, and the bustier, yeah.
The purple bustier, the black miniskirt, and the green underwear. What is that? Green leggings? Green bicycle shorts?
I don't know.
What's interesting is that the image, the artwork on the package, she looks okay. She looks like the doll is on drugs. I mean, she's working the streets. I think she's not just reporting. I think she's doing the news. Excuse me. I didn't mean that. Yeah, that's a weird one. And she's got high heels. And she has... Does she have ankle bracelets? Yeah,
I think she does. Yes. Wow, that's good detail. Yeah.
Oh, this is the crossover. This is Hooker April, and she films. She films whatever she's doing. She's filming it because she has a purple camcorder.
Yeah.
No, that's sick.
No
wonder old men come up to me now and say, "You're my first girlfriend." It's like, woo! Okay, now I see why. Okay.
You returned once in the 2012 cartoon. I'm curious if that was what that
did. Was. Oh, well, that was great. I got to record with Andrea Romano, who is wonderful. I wished I had been able to work with her more. She's really quite talented and very kind. It was by myself in a booth, so I didn't get to see Rob, and I didn't get to see Sean, and I didn't get to see any of the guys that were doing the Turtles. So not as fun, but oh my God, great to be back. And Nickelodeon Studios is fantastic and so much fun. And the booths was beautiful. I had to go back a number of times because they lay down the script, then they send it for animation. So then they come back, they've had changes, and they show you like line drawings, animated line drawings, and then you put in the new lines, and then more animation, and then you come back again, and they have you do things differently because now the animation is done so differently. But anything to do with Ninja Turtles, I'm thrilled to be associated with. It was great.
Yeah, it's too bad they didn't include April in the crossovers they did. I'm still holding out hope that maybe they'll find a way to bring her back at some point.
That would have been great. I know they did the guys.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe they just didn't think about it. I never met Meg Whitman. I didn't really watch that show, so sorry.
No.
So I really don't know what April was like on that show.
She was a kid in that show. She was like the same age as, if not younger than the Turtles.
So right. Yeah. But I wonder how, if April O'Neil in the future would have, if the way they played April O'Neil, I don't know what to say. Anyway, I was thrilled to be associated with it in any way. I would love to have been on every single episode, just like I was on the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
My last question for you, and I don't know if you're going to decline this, but I'm going to ask anyway. Who is your favorite turtle?
That's my answer.
Got it. That's fine. I thought I might get as much. So.
How can you absolutely ask that question? How can you do that when I love them all?
Everybody, and I thought April's would be especially interesting if but I didn't expect it.
There's no way that this April could have a favorite turtle when I was blessed to be with the most wonderful, creative, kind, loving, talented friends that one could ever, and we're still, we're friends, and I couldn't love one over the other. I know them all, and I love them for all their different personalities and attributes, but they're just the best. And to say I liked one more over the other, because I actually think that they embody the Turtles. So to say I like one over the other would be, it would, how do you say that? It's not possible.
As a fan, that's some of the things that's been so cool over the last X number of years, especially as more of you have done the kind of convention circuit and all that. Seeing you guys interact on a regular basis at conventions and online signings and things like that, it's been really cool to see that, as opposed to so many other shows where maybe they really hated each other behind the scenes, that you got that the lot of you were friends with each other, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have so much fun from time to time. We get together in Cam's living room and we sing. I don't know if you've seen that. We've sung, usually like we sang a song for Kermit for his birthday. We did It Isn't Easy Being Green. And we started with a Thanksgiving or Halloween. We did that. We did Christmas. We're Dreaming of a Green Christmas. You should look it up. It's on Cam's Facebook page.
Oh, very cool. I will.
It's and you can see how much we really, and Peter Renae joins us, which is great. Peter doesn't come out to the cons very much. So he joins us, and he's got the most beautiful whistle you've ever heard.
Oh, cool.
It's amazing. So look those up. If you haven't seen them, they're super fun, and you'll see the interaction. We really care about each other and like each other, and it's a family. It's really great.
Cool here.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I wanted to tell the fans that you'll be doing a virtual signing via VShout in the near future. So to check out your Instagram and find out about that. And you still wanted to say something about a charity that you're affiliated with?
Yes, absolutely. Other than doing amazing cartoons like Ninja Turtles and having an effect on people, I've always felt that education is the most important thing. And, now more than any time, you can see that education can change the world, and we need to. So over the past few years, I've been raising money for scholarships for students attending the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. It's in Israel. It's a major university. They call it the Harvard of the Middle East. And students are older. They've served in the military. Most don't have parents that can help them pay for tuition and their food and lodging. So it's my joy and my honor to help these students. And, it's a place where Jews and Christians and Muslims study together in peace. And hopefully someday there will be peace. And I think it will come from education and collaboration and working together on a university setting. So that's my big push right now to help people get educated and change the world by being good to each other. So that's my thing. And yeah, that's my thing.
That's great. And how do people donate if they're interested in doing so? Can they go to the website or? They
can. It's AFHU, which stands for American Friends of the Hebrew University. So afhu.org. And they can go online. They can also instant messenger me on Facebook. And I can give them the phone number to the office at the local Los Angeles office. And then their money will go towards scholarships. And yeah, thank you for saying that. It's really lovely. Thank you for contributing. I appreciate you doing that.
Oh, my pleasure. Please. I was, once you told me about it, I looked it up and it seemed like it was a more than worthy cause. So I appreciate you doing that. And I appreciate you talking to me and the fans. And honestly, Renae, thank you. I just really appreciate your time. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
And you too, my dear. I think that this has been one of my favorite interviews. I really appreciate your professionalism and your sweetness and not asking me wacky questions.
I had to cross them all off my list. So
okay, thank you. Would you like me to do a sign off?
Oh, yeah, please.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I have to get ready. Oh, my God. Hey everyone, this is April O'Neil with Brian Van Hooker, and I've had a wonderful time. I hope you have too. You take care now. This is April O'Neil, Channel 6 News. Bye-bye.
He's a radical rat. Leonardo leads Donatello does machine. That's a fact, Jack.